All right, tonight's a very special night. Tonight we're gonna be doing a Valentine's special for two. So since tonight's a special occasion, of course we're going to be cooking a steak. We prefer ribeye, so that's what we got here is a really thick cut ribeye we'll be sharing. We've got some asparagus, some potatoes, and of course, gotta have bread. Let's show you how we're going to do all this. Alright, so let's start on these potatoes because they're going to take the longest. We've got some Yukon Gold potatoes, and we need to make these fancy because it's a Valentine's dinner. So we're going to make some potato roses. Now we're going to be using a mandolin here. If you've never used one, please be very careful. You'll cut your finger. And we're going to cut the tips off of the potato, just the edges, because they're going to be a little bit too small to use anyways. And we're going to cut these potatoes. If you're using this mandolin, I'm using it on the number 2 setting. That's about how thick you want it. Now let's add about 5 cloves of garlic. We ran it through the garlic press here. Got a half a stick of butter here. A lot of salt. Potatoes can handle a lot of salt. Plenty of pepper. Now we've got 1 sprig of rosemary here. Give this a light chop. Alright, let's add these to these potatoes. Also gonna add a little bit of olive oil. Now these potatoes want to stick together whenever they're sliced like this. So the best way to do this is just go in with your hands. These potatoes have a high starch content and it helps them stick together, which is good for what we're going to do, but you really need to break them apart so that they can get some of this flavor every piece. Nothing goes better with potatoes than bacon, so we're going to add a little bacon to this as well. Alright, we've got 1 piece of bacon here. What we're going to do is we're going to take our potatoes and we're going to lay them out right on top of the bacon. We're going to stack them nice and tight. Alright, we're going to take this end here. We're just going to roll it up. So you have it rolled up nice and tight. Stick it in this muffin tin. Just like that. I would much prefer that roast to any flour you could ever give me. I don't know about Hannah, but I think she'd say the same thing. Put these in the oven for about an hour. Check on them here in a minute. When we sit down for dinner tonight, I want Hannah to look down at the plate and say the same thing she said to me the first night she met me. What a hunk. So we've obviously got a hunk of ribeye here. Plenty for me and her to split. We could go about this one of 2 ways. We can do it how I would normally do it. We could cook it low and slow on the sous vide and sear it off real hot, almost like a small prime rib. Or we could be a little bit extra. And that's what we're going to do. Being that it's Valentine's Day, it looks to me like that's kind of like the half of a shape of a heart. Let's keep the theme going here. So what we're going to do is cut directly down the center with a sharp knife. But we're not going to go all the way through. Because right in the middle of a ribeye is where true love lies. And now we've got our heart. Alright, so let's just give this a little bit of oil to help the seasoning stick. Take a generous amount of salt. Some fresh cracked black pepper. Now I'm going to give it a little bit of Montreal seasoning. I've been on a little Montreal kick lately. Alright, I'll be honest with you. We don't have the most creative idea about how to take asparagus and make it some kind of fancy Valentine shape. But nevertheless, we're going to cook some awesome asparagus. You need to take about an inch and a half off. Now a lot of people will tell you to get rid of these at the ends. I've done it before. It's a lot of work to get rid of them. You can use a potato peeler. You can use the back of your knife. Whatever your personal preference is. We're going to grill these really hot and fast. Let them have a little bit of a bite to them, so there's some texture there, but we also want them soft on the inside. Just broke that one. So we're gonna take a little bit of oil and drizzle it over it so that our seasoning will stick to it. I like a lot of salt on asparagus. I don't know why. Heavy pinch of salt, some kosher salt, some pepper, sprinkle on some garlic powder. We're also going to give it a little kick with some Cajun seasoning. Now, we aren't going to cook this for very long. We're going to actually wait until the ribeye is done, pull it off the grill, let it rest for 10 minutes. And in that 10-minute period, we're going to cook this right where that ribeye was. All right, wouldn't be Valentine's dinner without some bread. We got this French loaf we're going to slice right in half. We've got a half a stick of melted butter here. We're going to drizzle this butter right on top of this bread. This isn't how we normally do our garlic bread, but it'll do. We're going to take some garlic powder instead of real garlic. We're going to make little hearts. Got a little heart stencil I just cut out. We need something with some color. So, look at that. Nothing says I love you like bread. Prettiest flowers I've ever seen. The only problem is I just don't feel like all this is cheesy enough. So let's add some cheese. Alright, we just grilled this asparagus literally about 5-10 minutes. Gonna finish this with some Parmesan. Alright, let's set this aside. Look at that. I'm proud of myself. This is beautiful. Alright, this looks amazing. Now, let's go and start with this ribeye. One for me, one for Hannah. Now, we each need a flour. And that flour has to have a stem. Let's get a little piece of heart-shaped bread. There you have it. Valentine meal for you and your special someone.